And we're live.
All righty. Hello, everyone. Each day you give is precious. It's a joyful thing to live. We are stewards of wonders of these bodies that you give. In our heartbeats, in our breathing, in our walking, in our sight, we are blessed to be a blessing, and your grace is our delight. Yet when tragedy is sudden, when we're faced with pain and death, when a body is too broken to receive another breath, when it seems that none can cheer us, when a loved one is too ill, in these times when death is near us, life becomes more precious still. These are the lyrics from a hymn, God, Each Day You Give is Precious, by Carolyn Winfrey Gillette. Welcome to Donation and Faith Panel Discussion, sponsored by the New Jersey Sharing Network. Hello, everyone. Now, just so you know who the New Jersey Sharing Network is, we are a nonprofit organization responsible for the recovery and placement of donated organs and tissue for those in need of a life-saving transplant. Nearly 4,000 New Jersey residents are currently awaiting transplantation. We are also part of the National Recovery System, which is in place for the 115,000 people on the national waiting list. We operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days with a team of over 150 highly trained and dedicated members on staff whose mission is to save and enhance lives. National Donor Sabbath is traditionally observed annually 2 weekends before Thanksgiving from Friday through Sunday. But here at the New Jersey Sharing Network, we shine a light on this observance not only the entire month of November, but all year long. During National Donor Sabbath, faith leaders from many religions, donor families, transplant recipients, and donation and transplantation professionals participate in services and programs to educate the public about the need for the life-saving and healing gifts passed to others through transplantation, while also encouraging people to register their decision to be organ, eye, and tissue donors. New Jersey Sharing Network partners with faith-based leaders, those active in their faith and communities of faith, to promote and educate. Tonight's event is a discussion, so please feel free to post your questions in the chat. We want to hear from you. All right, so listen, welcome everyone, and we are going to have an amazing conversation tonight, and we want you to all get involved. So make sure you put those questions in that chat. Tonight, we are fortunate to have 5 individuals who are either ordained or by association equipped to discuss what their faith says about the subject of donation. I'll now introduce them, and they will tell you a little about themselves. Reverend Dr. Vanessa M. Brown.
Good evening, everyone. I am excited to be here with you on this evening. I am Reverend Dr. Vanessa M. Brown. I'm the senior pastor of Rivers of Living Water United Church of Christ of New York and New Jersey. And our ministry is predominantly African-American, predominantly LGBTQI, and we believe in the radically inclusive love of everyone. And so I am excited to be with you here tonight. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Reverend Dr. Marilyn Monroe Harris.
Good evening, everyone. It's really wonderful to be with you as well. As you heard, my name is the Reverend Dr. Marilyn Monroe Harris. I am the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Teaneck in Teaneck, New Jersey. We are a Baptist denomination, and I have been pastor there for 15 years, and we are really blessed to be able to be with you this evening. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Father Edmund Luciano. Got it.
Hi, I'm a Catholic priest in the Diocese of Metuchen, New Jersey. So that's for us about 650,000 Catholics. I'm currently stationed as associate pastor of a cluster of parishes in New Brunswick, taking care of Italian, English, and Spanish-speaking Catholics. And I've been involved with the Organ Sharing Network for about 13 years now. I'm very grateful to be part of tonight.
All right. Rabbi Ari Lucas.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be with you this evening. My name is Ari Lucas. I am the Associate Rabbi at Congregation Agudath Israel in Caldwell, New Jersey. It's in Essex County. I am so delighted to be with all these panelists and all of you who are joining. And of course, thanks to Denise and everyone at the New Jersey Sharing Network. It's really an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. And Raj Karnani. Got it.
Hi, everyone. My name is Raj Karnani. Thank you for having me here. I'm very excited. I'm a member of a donor family. My father donated both his corneas about 10 years ago. My father was a very passionate member of the Hindu community, as well as a very passionate believer in the idea of organ donation. So I tried to make sure to pass his message along and ensure that anything I can to provide any insight on the Hindu ideals would be there. So thank you.
Thank you all so much. And we are getting ready to get started. Okay, Father Edmund, what does Catholicism say about organ and tissue donation? And let me let you answer that part first.
Am I there? Everybody just kind of reloaded on me.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What
So,
does Catholicism say about organ and tissue donation?
right. So what the main concern of Catholicism would be is more at how do we obtain the organs? Certainly, everyone remembers well the last three pontiffs, which would be in the Catholic Church, teachers, but not new teaching, protectors of the teaching of the Church. And so we have right now Pope Francis, who in 2014 received the Transplantation Committee for the Council of Europe. And at that time, he described organ transplant with the words, a testimony of love for our neighbor, which is very similar to terminology used by his predecessor, Benedict. Before Benedict was elected pontiff, he said, I would donate my organs to anyone who would be in need of them. Thankfully, he's still alive and with us. And even before that, in 2000, John Paul II, who wrote a major work on the dignity of life called Evangelium Vitae, the Gospel of Life, for us that if we have, as the book of Proverbs says, refuse no one the good which is in your power to do for them. So with the question if the Catholic Church is very much in support of organ donation, what would its concerns be? And it's very succinctly that organs are procured in ways that do no harm, and that they are donated in ethical ways. So for us, obviously you can't donate an organ in such a way as it would immediately cause the death of the donor. So we look at the same criterion really that the organ sharing network uses. High brain death means something that is irreversible. We have sometimes tragedies where people are, as we know, on machines that are keeping them alive, that in ways that are kind of basic, and it's only, I shouldn't say keeping them alive, that it's delaying the inevitable. And so when there is no hope of reversal, then someone is considered a candidate, and can do so ethically and generously. We encourage, family members to be aware of that. I have always been an organ donor. It was something I did when I got my driver's license. I just figured, well, if I can't use them and somebody else can, it just, for me, was kind of, not a question. This is what you do. So I've always been in support of it. Certainly, for whatever reason, it's not something that Catholics are compelled to do. So it is something that is a matter of our education and our generosity and our charity.
All right.
I think that and so my personal experience is a little bit more than just checking the box when I was licensed at 17. I was halfway through seminary, and I found myself out of breath and not able to sleep and having little problems that eventually, over a couple of weeks, compounded and brought me to the doctor, where I thought that I was going to be told that I had the flu. I was 23. It would have been the first time I had the flu. So I figured, that's why I was feeling the way that I did, was unfamiliar with it. What I ended up having happen was I was told that my heart was enlarged and that I was sent to the hospital. Now, not being a person who was ever sick, to hear that your heart is enlarged, and when you're studying for ministry, you figure, I have a big heart. Isn't that what I'm supposed to have
Right.
to go into this vocation? And the end result was that they found that not only was I in congestive heart failure, but that my heart function had been reduced down to 13% by the time that I had gone into the doctor and being sent over to the emergency room. In the process of just a couple weeks of being in Baltimore, where I was in seminary, then being sent back up here to New Jersey, where I'm a native, I was getting more and more sluggish, and really had to take my belief in God and in Jesus as my Savior and say, am I ready? Because things were really looking that dire. Me being me, I was trying more to keep a good humor for everybody else around me, and not let them know what I was thinking or how bad things were becoming. And in this process, I decided I was going to leave the hospital because I was in a care of a doctor that I didn't know, but was, and this, we'll just leave it aside, was not actually caring for me. But this is where, faith, God's providence, comes in very strongly, because my cousin happened to be doing work in a construction work in a doctor's house, who happened to be the head of a heart failure department at another hospital in New Jersey. And as they were talking, he said, tell your cousin he shouldn't be out of the hospital and to come straight to my office tomorrow morning. And after telling me that I had the worst heart he'd ever heard in his practice, he put a pump in and listed me for a transplant, to which, and I've been fortunate to meet the nurse that took the call, that there was pretty much a heart available immediately because of the generosity of the family. So my donor's name is Najib Green Lewis. He was 12 years old at the time. He unfortunately was on his bike and hit during the day by a drunk driver on the side of the road. And we all know that the loss of a child is probably the most horrific tragedy that happens to people in life. And somehow his grandparents, who had custody of him, who are also Christians and people of great faith, were able to say, nobody else should die when there's a way to save them. And so myself and 4 other people had our lives saved because of what I believe to be the faith and the generosity of that family. Of my beliefs, intellectually, cerebrally, they were always there. But this was really when we talk about self-giving, about generosity, about having faith that God can bring, does not cause evil, but it can bring great goodness out of it. I think that they are witnesses to me of those facts, and that I just, always encourage, when it comes up, my congregation to be aware of the power that they have, even if it's a willingness that they may never be called upon to give, but to be aware of the fact that it is a power, and encourage them to talk to, each other and their families about it. Because if you know that this is a decision that a family member is comfortable with, you don't have to then wonder, are you doing something that they would want in a very difficult moment? So I'm just so glad to have people who took the the experience of God's love for them and knew it in their life and were able to say they needed to share that even in their tragedy, because it puts me here, and hopefully I'm able to be a vehicle in which, you know, that faith, hope, and love are shared among people now. But it only happened because of that family. And for us, this is kind of like the Catholic coincidence things. My transplant was on the first Friday of May. So we have feast days and a calendar that we follow in the Catholic Church. And the first Fridays are always dedicated to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, to remembering the love that was given to the human race from Jesus on the cross. And then there's an annual feast of it every year. So my heart transplant was on the first Friday of May. And then 6 weeks of being post-transplant was Friday was the actual annual solemnity. And that date moves. So I do believe in so many ways that God was putting a little signature on what happened.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Thank you for allowing me to share the story, just so I can talk about Najib and his good family.
Thank you so much. Wow. Okay, so I'm full from that. Okay, Reverend Dr. Vanessa Brown, what message regarding donation do members of the faith community need to hear, especially your faith community?
So thank you so much for that question. It's a very succinct answer. The first thing I think that our people need to hear is that in our sacred text, it tells us in John 10:10, that I've come that you might have a life. This is Jesus speaking, and that more abundantly. That abundant life does not only apply to finances and prosperity. That abundant life also applies to health and wellness, emotional, mental, and of course, physical. So I would say to our faith community that life is one of the greatest gifts that they can give, and it's a gift that can be shared. I would also tell them about, through organ, eye, and tissue donation, that people have the potential to reach out and do good in this world, and it's part of us doing good in this world, that they can save lives of those who would die without our help. It's essentially the same thing that Jesus did. Jesus gave his life for us, right? And so they can give new hope to their families, new hope to other families. They can transform and improve lives by restoring sight, by restoring health, by restoring wholeness. I would also venture to say that it is one of the greatest opportunities for them to seek to do good, pass along life, and help their fellow human beings. So I would absolutely encourage them in that way and let them know that it is about life and having it more abundantly. And they should want their brother, their sister, their sibling to enjoy that abundant life by giving.
There's an amen in there somewhere. That was great. That was great. Everybody, don't forget, all of you that are watching, make sure you put your questions in the chat because we want to hear from you. All right, so we're going to go to Ari. What does Judaism say about organ and tissue donation?
Yeah, thank you. And you might hear some echoes of the previous answers, but first I'll just say that I'm grateful to members of our community, our synagogue community, who have shared with me their passion for this issue as recipients. Their families have been profoundly affected by the generosity of people who gave, and they continue to be the greatest preachers in our community of the importance of this because they're living testaments to the value and the importance of organ and tissue donation. Organ donation is supported by all major streams of Judaism. That wasn't always the case, and that has everything to do with advances in science and medicine over the past 75 to 100 years. Before drugs to combat rejection were as effective as they are today, organ transplantation, as you know, was largely unsuccessful. And so early on, prominent rabbis said, no, this is not something we should do because we have a general respect for a body after it dies. A human life, a human body after it dies should be buried in the earth according to Jewish tradition and not disturbed. That value, that priority is superseded by the value of pikuach nefesh, which is the Hebrew words which mean the value of saving another person's life. That is a paramount Jewish value. And if a person is in a position to save another person's life, that takes priority over almost every other significant religious or ritual obligation that a Jew has in this world. But not only saving a life. I'll point just one source. There was a famous rabbi named Isser Yehuda Unterman. He was the second chief rabbi of the state of Israel. And in 1952, he was asked the question, can a person donate eyes so that somebody else can have the gift of sight? Now, that is not a life-saving procedure. But Rabbi Unterman wrote, and I'll quote you from his words in 1952, he said, "It is an instance of great merit to the deceased, and it is gratifying to one's soul that so great a mitzvah, a good deed," that's a Hebrew word for a good deed, "is fulfilled with one's body." In Judaism, we are unequivocal today that if you have the ability to save another person's life, you must. It is a responsibility if you can, and not just one's life, but certainly quality of life as well.
Wow, thank you so much. Dr. Harris, as a religious leader, how often has the subject of organ and tissue donation been a part of your sermon or your service?
I want to say, really, as a pastor, direct conversation or direct sermons regarding tissue and organ donation, I would not say have been preached in that manner. What we have been able to do is to be able to bring the information to individuals and show them what love looks like and what giving looks like. Different than what we've heard from our colleagues in terms of maybe the Catholic religion or in Judaism, especially I'm going to say in our Baptist tradition, we have the ability to make our own decisions as a church and as church leadership in terms of that. So we do not have any doctrine around that, but we do understand the giving, as I heard Dr. say earlier, in regards to what love looks like and the love that Christ has had for us and what we are to give one another. I also have had the opportunity, as I did say, that I am the pastor of the First Baptist Church of Teaneck, but I also serve as the president of the United Missionary Baptist Convention of the state of New Jersey. And therefore, in that role, what I've been able to do, we've had the Sharon Newark come. We've had people have testimonies and to see what it means to be able to give the gift of life, the living life. That has been so marvelous. I also am bivocational. And so I work at Newark Baptist Medical Center, Children's Hospital of New Jersey, where we are so in line and one accord with New Jersey Sharing Network. And therefore, we understand what it means to be giving on all levels. And so we're so proud and so humble. But the one thing that I think, when we talk about what preaching looks like, it looks like what we live. And the best witness has been, the best sermons have been those who I have known personally and those who are going to say in our faith have known who had transplants. It has made an absolute difference because of that, to be able to see what the gift of life looks like. We've known people personally, and as a group, we've seen people with kidneys transplant, heart transplants, lung transplants. And therefore, that has been the best sermon that has been preached, to bring those individuals forth, for them to see, for us to see, and to be able to hear those stories, and to be able to know that's what love looks like. For we are, as Dr. said, to have life and have it more abundantly. And I also want to say to Father that there are no coincidences in Christ. So everything that happened, there are no coincidences. It was just so that his story could be told, that God will show us through living individuals, this is what we do. So we thank God, not necessarily also to be able to have preaches and sermons that we say with words that sometimes people hear and don't hear, but we've been able to preach it by seeing living legends. That's what I call them, legends of love, what God is doing. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Speaking of sermons and services, we have an amazing faith resource guide on our website for all you faith leaders, those who are active in your faith, or someone who just wants to get more involved. Go on our website, and right there on the website is our faith resource guide. In there, it is packed with different ideas and different ways to get involved, and sermon ideas, hymns, all kind of things to make your service geared toward talking about organ and tissue donation. And it's not just for pastors or rabbis or priests. Anyone can go on our website and get that. So I want to say this, the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And Raj's dad, is a staple. He has been, involved in network and everything, and Raj is just carrying on the torch. So Raj, I want to ask you a question. How did faith impact your family's decision to donate your father's tissue after his passing?
Well, he actually made it very easy for us because of how passionate he was and how he made sure we knew about that. So my father, and thank you for asking that question. My father had three passions in life: his family, his faith, and organ donation. And he made sure to make sure that they were able to complement each other in a way that, like, he felt good about how he believed and how he felt. So whenever he had a chance, he would attend any sort of like spiritual leader talk or event to ensure that he can understand and ask his question when he can. So there was a time where, like, he would attend a lot of these events because he believed in all the virtues and the values of the Hindu religion. So he was able to attend a lot of these events and meet up with listen to some spiritual leaders speak about various things. And sometimes they would have like question and answers and Q&As, and there was like thousands of people there. And he was very lucky to be able to ask a question. And of course, what he's going to ask? He's going to ask what that person, and what we called him Babaji, part of Radha Swami, he asked like what his beliefs on organ donation were. And he quoted, and we all still remember, like when he came back home and he told us how excited he was from the answer he got was basically what Babaji said was, he declared organ donation is the best gift anyone can give to their fellow man or woman. In fact, after the session, what we noticed is on some of these books, some of these spiritual books that was written from Radha Swami, was there was an incident. There was like a flyer that just kind of talked about organ donation and how to donate and what type of, like, what you can do and what the beliefs are and how, it is like a great gift and what you can do to make sure your family knows. I think I'm hearing that, make sure your family knows about it, so like they don't have to make that tough decision. So that was like something that we, whether or not it was because of my father's question, it didn't really matter. We just were like really happy to see that, and really happy to see that it was kind of something that was consistent with what we believed in. And there was another spiritual leader who we call Dada Vaswani, his name is Dada Vaswani. He's no longer with us, but he was, very well respected, and to this day, his values are also like sought out after. And he was asked on various occasions what his thoughts on organ donation was, and basically he quoted, "The greatest good one can do where the body is concerned is organ donation. Imagine if through your eyes a blind person can see. Imagine families' lives are saved through organ donation." I don't know if it's faith, irony, but the fact that he talked about, imagine through your eyes a blind person can see, and my father was able to donate his eyes, was just something that just meant a lot. So when it came down to it, my father passed very suddenly, actually in a temple, of all places. Like he passed away in a temple on a very religious day of our culture, just suddenly, which obviously wasn't easy for us. But at the moment he passed, the moment we knew he was gone, the first thing we did was find out what we could do to donate his organs. And what we were able to do was donate his corneas, which in a way made us just made it just a lot easier for us to kind of with the grieving process, and it just made it easier to make that decision. It was just like we didn't have to think twice. So it just kind of helped that faith that he had in his religion and organization just kind of helped us just make the decision. So we were very
Great.
blessed.
Wow. Yeah, that is a blessing. And as Raj said, I think one of the things that we really preach here at the network is have that conversation with your family. It is imperative that your family knows your wishes. So please make sure you have that conversation like Raj's father. All right, so we have a question coming in from our chat, and I'm going to give this one to Dr. Vanessa Brown. How did you reconcile the thoughts of donating? Okay, that wouldn't go to her. How would you reconcile the thoughts of donating a loved one's organs versus the guilt one faces on giving up on life? And that's for Dr. Vanessa Brown.
Okay. So I think that, again, I go back to my initial statement that life is important, and that life is one of the greatest gifts. It's not but it is one of the greatest gifts. And I think that I would also say that, again, I'll go back to John 10:10 about I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And that my loved one would want whomever it is, hopefully I would have had that conversation and I would know that person well enough, even if I didn't have that conversation, know them well enough to know that they would want to give life to somebody else, that they want to give that gift to somebody else, that whatever that gift would be, whether it would be their heart, whether it would be their eyes, whatever that particular organ would be, that they would know that they were giving a gift, if that person was loving, if that person was a giving person. And I, that's again, it's about having that conversation. And so I think that wouldn't be hard for me to reconcile, even if I didn't have that conversation, if I knew that person well enough and knew how they were and how they moved in the world, because you have to know people and how they move in the world before you make those decisions, before you can reconcile that. And so and I think that the guilt piece of it, I think that that's relative, right? I don't know that everybody feels guilty, or feels like they are giving up on life because they have given someone's organs. I think that every individual is different based upon what their status is. And I think that I think that people know what it is that needs to be done when they're passing from this life to the next, regardless of what your faith path is.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. We are going to go. The questions are really coming in on this chat. So that is a great thing. I'm going to go to, let's see. We're going to go to Rabbi Lucas on this one. When speaking at a high school recently, a student told me her rabbi at the local Shabbat was told her organ donation was not acceptable. Are Shabbats different than Reform, conservative, etc.?
So Chabad, which is a sect of Hasidic Judaism, I can't speak for them. I'm not Chabad myself, so I don't want to weigh in on that. But I will say generally Chabad have some beliefs that are that tend to be not part of the. We share so much in common. I don't want to accentuate the differences, but theologically there's some differences between Chabad and other sects of Judaism. One issue which is different is our belief in messianism and the coming of the Messiah and what it means to anticipate the coming of the Messiah, what will happen when the Messiah comes. In Judaism, a foundational belief is that when the Messiah comes, God willing, it'll be in our time. We pray for it. We try to hasten its arrival by doing good acts in this world. When the Messiah comes, we believe as Jews, don't ask me how it happens, but that all those who have died will be resurrected. that there will be bodily resurrection of the dead. You can think about passages from Isaiah of the dry bones coming to life, Ezekiel, different passages where bodies that were once dead actually come to life. It might be a little bit scary to young children who watch zombie movies, but in Judaism, we think of this as a re-giving of life to those who have lost, and in many ways is a comforting idea that those who we have lost will return to us in a future time. And the concern that often gets raised is, well, if I've donated my organs, when I'm resurrected, will they still be with me? If I gave them up when I died, when I'm resurrected, will they still be there? And in some ways, I think that misses the point. We're talking about a miraculous, in my opinion, we're talking about a miraculous resurrection. If God can bring the dead back to life, God can certainly solve that plumbing issue. And I also would say, sometimes people will ask me when we talk about the Messianic age and when the dead will come back alive, they say, oh, well, will I come back in my 20-year-old body or my 50-year-old body or my 80-year-old body? Will I have my arthritis when I come back in the world to come? Will all the challenges of my body that I had in this world, I hope people also feel the blessings of their body in this world, whatever body you are gifted. But what I try to remind people is let's focus on the miraculous, which is that God can give life. And if God can give life, God certainly, I believe, can address those questions of arthritis and whether it's your 50-year-old body or your 80-year-old body. Let's focus on the big picture, which is that God can restore life.
Yes, beautiful. Yes. So Dr. Reverend Marilyn Harris, got a question for you. As a community outreach leader, how can we work to spread the message further?
Well, we can definitely begin to do these things, working with like this, that you have this forum here tonight. But also what we've done and what can be done and what's going to be continued is that we bring groups together. We bring the New Jersey Sharing Network to come, and you yourself has been able to share at different venues in our community when we come together. But the biggest thing is telling the story. I'm telling you, when someone sees someone and they tell their story, hearts are moved. People come, and I was going to go back a little bit to the question that was maybe raised earlier and was answered, I think, by Dr. Brown. And I think it may be even culturally when we're talking about this guilt of giving up and understanding that necessarily when someone passes on and bringing this information, it's not that they've given up. And this is really a spiritual time as well. So it doesn't have to be looked at that somebody gave up or you gave up on someone. It's a wonderful time to say that their life is they will continue to live spiritually and also to help somebody else live, which is a total gift of love. So the biggest thing that we are to do in the community is information and dispelling myths. And how that happens, I really can't say it over and over again. I've been out and there have been people who have received transplants. And when they come and they tell their story and people see the gift of life, it has actually changed hearts. People have then said, let me sign up. I want to be an organ donation. I want to be an organ donor, because you have to understand that there's so many myths out there about how organs are procured and what takes place. And the same thing that Rabbi was talking about, what's going to happen when I'm resurrected? What will that look like? And so we have to dispel the myth, first of all, of how organs are procured and understand that. And then that will definitely help. The more information, the more we can see people tell their story, and to see those who could not walk again, to see those who are blind, now they can see again. This is the gift of life, and let people know that. I've seen hearts change instantaneously.
Yes, I see. Kelly says the power of the story is so moving. It is something people will always remember, and that is so very true. Raj, I have a question for you. Describe how donation has positively impacted your grieving process and strengthened your faith, because you are a true champion and a cheerleader, if I've ever seen one. Thank
you. It's Definitely had a positive impact on me. Obviously, you know, like my father was my hero. I didn't expect to lose him when I did. None of us did, so it wasn't easy. In fact, you know, I don't think I'll ever get over the fact that he's not here, but it made me want to like. It motivated me. It inspired me just to see how much passion he had, just to see like how strongly he felt about it. And you know, he would write he would write a journal every night. He'd have entries in it. He would just talk about organ donation. It had a very special, like he had a very special passion for it. So I wanted to like kind of keep that passion going, and just to know that I wanted to just keep his message going and keep his faith alive made me want to like learn a little bit more about it. I know it's a good deed, but I wanted to make sure that like, you know, what he learned, I wanted to do my own research and see how does the Hindu faith feel about that. And you know, the Hindu religion is it goes back centuries, so it's more about like just understanding like the values of it, how it supports it. So there's a couple of things that I looked up and I researched about, and one of them is like, just if I read a couple of them, is you know, in the Hindu scriptures there are 10 virtual acts, which we call niyamis, and one of them is called dan, which is the third one, which actually means selfless giving. And what more is selfless giving than organ donation? Like you're making sure that people know that I want to donate what I have. I don't care about, you know, when I leave this world, my body is just a machine. My body is not. My soul moves on, and my body should be used to keep that life going for someone else, whether it's a tissue, organ, a cornea, an eye. I should be able to provide that. We also have a very strong belief in what we call Shiva. It's like a charity called service, and it has a deep meaning and followed by millions in the Hindu religion. I don't think there could be ever better Shiva than donating part of your body to give life, sight to another person. So that's the highest form of Shiva. So, you know, my father's belief in organ donation opened up all our eyes and on values in the Hindu faith. It provided us with optimism on life and just really motivated me to pass that message along. So the grief we had in losing our father has turned into a positive opportunity to keep his passion alive. And, you know, that passion makes me feel that he's always with me. So, you know, 10 years later, he's still with me and I still want to keep that message going. So.
And you really do, Raj.
Thank you.
So most religions, are they comfortable with tissue donation? I'm going to give that one to Father Edmund.
Well, I think, you know, one of the advantages for me in doing this for 13 years is that I've listened to a lot of imams and rabbis and fellow Christians speak about this. And we haven't come across in all of, you know, the 13 years I've been doing this, I haven't heard one faith that has said that there is an objection to it.
Okay. All right.
There might be particular, but those always seem to be technicalities that are overshadowed by the act of charity and mercy. That really, especially among the Abrahamic faiths, that's the guiding principle of everything, is that we are people who have experienced a supernatural and extraordinary and generous love, and so we share that. I'm unaware. This is not just, you know, to say that there might not be one out there, but for the majority of faiths that are observed in the United States, I haven't heard one of them that raises an actual prohibition on organ and tissue donation. And I've been on both sides of this now. I've been on the side of family and friends, along with myself, that have been recipients, and also parishioners and family and friends that have had the donor question. So I think that you know, if we want to say that people might have their personal objections, they certainly can. But I'm unaware of any creedal objections among any of the major Eastern or Western religions. Again, the ones that we're exposed to mostly in the United States. And again, I'm drawing on not just studying world religions as an undergrad, but being privileged to do this for 13 years and listen to so many people. This question has come up, and we haven't seen anybody, any religion that does offer a prohibition. or even really an objection that isn't overcome by some presiding virtue like charity or mercy, as Rabbi said, mitzvah, that would overcome what, or whatever the objection might be. So I think we can all be very comfortable in saying that, yeah, whatever, for one of these major faiths or religious observance of the majority of people in the United States, yeah, we can move forward comfortably with our creeds in this area
Thank you so
of
much.
life.
Okay, so let's see. We have one here. How can we address families' concerns when they mention their loved one needs to go whole the way God wanted it to be? So let's go back to Dr. Brown on this one.
Okay, so here is what I would say. And I've heard this before. It's certainly cultural. I'll speak from the African American perspective. I've heard it a number of times. And so I know that what I have said is when they talk about their loved ones need to go whole, I would let them know that they are going whole because it is their spirit that is entering into the presence of God,
Right.
not their body. Right. And so I think that's something that people need to understand. Your body does not enter into the presence of God. You receive, the way we say in our sacred text, you will receive a new body. Right. So it won't even be the body that we have here as we walk this earth, entering into the presence of God. It really is your spirit entering into the presence of God. Right. And so that is something that I would encourage them to know and to understand. And when they talk about the way God would want it to be, I would let them know that, our celestial souls, our spirits are going to be what enters into the presence of God. That is the way God would want it to be. Our flesh could never pass into the presence of God. And so it would not be our physical bodies, right? So that is what I would say.
Can I follow up on that? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes, please.
I would just say, in agreement with everything you said, in my context, in the Jewish context, for me, God wants people to live on this earth, and yes, I would even concede to the person. In the Jewish context, God does want a person's body to remain undisturbed and buried in the earth. We need to weigh that in this case against, in my opinion, the value of giving life to another person who's still alive. And in my opinion, when God weighs those two values, God sides with life for the living over not disturbing the body. So when I've been in that position of counseling someone, I actually say, in Judaism, we try not to disturb a body once it's died. We don't believe in autopsies unless there is, some kind of legal requirement to do so. We don't believe in autopsies unless there is some kind of medical finding that might save another life. But autopsies, exploratory autopsies, we don't condone in Judaism. But when an organ can be given to somebody else to save their life, well, that takes precedence, and that's what God would want. Similar to what Dr. Brown said, God would want another person to live.
Wow.
This is Reverend Harris. I just want to also follow up on that, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is something that is really dear to all and a hot topic as well, but I just agree with both that was said, but especially with Dr. Brown was talking about the fact that this really is, from my perspective, a cultural issue that really I'm going to say in the African-American tradition that we really have to be able to talk about when we talk about organ donation, because without talking about
we have some technical difficulties.
Can you hear me? I'm
Yes.
not sure, can you hear me? Okay, that's going to take place. This is extremely, extremely important, especially in our tradition. And so definitely to understand that we are going to rise up, and we're going to rise up. Our flesh cannot be there, but we'll rise up spiritually. And that is really what's truly important. So I thank you for bringing that up, because you did ask earlier how we're able to make a difference in our community. And in our African-American community, this is definitely one of the topics that we must talk about and understand what it will be that when we come back, when we are risen, when we are resurrected, for the word does say that the new heaven, new earth, we will have a new spiritual body. It's our soul that will be with the Lord, not this physical being. So thank you for that. That is just something that we really, really, really must talk about.
That is true. That is true. After spending time in approaching families of all different religions, you are right. It is a hot topic with African-American families, but I've noticed it is a topic with most families when they speak of religion. So I'm hoping that everyone is getting this tonight, because you all have been amazing. And I have one last question, and this one, let's see, what does faith say about the responsibility of the recipient of the gift? And this is coming from a newly kidney recipient. She just received a kidney, and we want to hear, let's see, we're going to ask, let's go with Father M and give me a quick response to that. What does faith say about responsibility of recipient of the gift?
Well, very simply, life is a sacred gift, whether we're recipients or not. I mean, we all have a responsibility to Almighty God to be good stewards. To use a jargon term, to be good stewards of the gifts that are given to us, because, St. Paul says, what do you have that you've not received, right? So we have to be grateful recipients. We have to be, aware that this is not just like a replacement part. We didn't get on Amazon Prime and order something that, every room that is like a primary room for me, so my bedroom and my office, really, there's a picture of Najib. When I celebrated my first Mass, his grandmother brought up, for us, that's, you bring up bread and wine, but we also added a part where his grandmother brought up his picture along with my parents bringing up the bread and wine, and they were all placed on the altar together, so what does the faith say? All life is sacred. All life needs to be cared for with high priority. But we have to be aware that we have been, as recipients, chosen, blessed. We have to maintain that gratitude that this is not something that a lot of people got. Most people on the list, we know those numbers are way too high of the mortality rate of people that are on that list. And for some reason, I got it. For some reason, another person got it. And I tend to think of myself as blessed and spared. And so my life has to be a witness of that blessing. And so, I can't be living contrary to that. I have to be living in witness of the story and the reality of what my life is now, so there's not a direct, like, if you go to Catechism paragraph 21a, but I think this is just something basic from at least a Christian perspective. We have to be caretakers of our bodies with, as temples of the Holy Spirit. And how much more now that we are entrusted with taking care of another sacred vessel within us that we were so generously and mercifully chosen to receive.
Yes, beautiful. All righty. Well, we have come to the end of this amazing event. And I want Raj to just tell us really quickly, give me like 2 sentences of what you would tell someone who is in the midst of making this decision. What would you tell them?
What I would tell them is, what I would tell them is make sure everyone you love is aware of what your wishes are. so they can make a decision when they need to. And B, just know that this decision of ordination is a great gift and a great service. And I think I did see a comment to ask the spelling of what the term was. The service from Hindu is called Seva, S-E-V-A, which means a service. And that service you're providing is just like, it's something that you can always go and just really feel comfortable and know that you are really helping someone to give a second chance or a gift of sight. And there's really no better gift than that. So I think that's what I would say. Sorry, I think there was more than 2 sentences, but that's what I would say.
That's okay.
I know that you're getting ready to go, but before we go, I just want to go back to that other question real fast and just say that people who have, and it was so beautifully said, that have received this gift of life, I don't believe they're in a coincidence in Christ. And so therefore, you have been blessed. And like you said, please take care of the beautiful vessel you have. But now it's your turn to tell your story so somebody else could have the gift of life.
That is right. Wow. Thank you, everyone. Want to shout out everybody that is chiming in on these comments. It is amazing. We got Corinne. We have Jen, Suzanne, Dee Dee Duffy. Everybody. These are, community people, just people who want to know more information, our volunteers, Christine. So this is great. So many great points. Amitra has put up the website for anybody that wants to go and check out our Donor Sabbath. So please continue to look at the chat and pull some good information off of there. Jan Hines, thank you. So this has been more than I imagined. Thank you all so very much. Don't forget to check out our website for our faith resource guide and everything else that's happening at the New Jersey Sharing Network. I'd like to thank the New Jersey Sharing Network for sponsoring this amazing event. If you would like to get in touch with any of our faith leaders or myself, please just email me at dpeoples@njsharingnetwork.org, and I will make sure that they get your email. And right now, I want to thank Dr. Reverend Vanessa M. Brown, very good friend of mine, Reverend Dr. Marilyn Monroe Harris, Father Edmund Luciano, and Rabbi Ari Lucas, and Rajesh Karnani. Thank you all so much for joining us. And in closing, I just want to quote the rest of God Each Day You Give Us is Precious by Carolyn Winfrey Gilead. We are grateful for the vision of the ones who have prepared, who have made the firm decision that in death, life must be shared. For when earthly bodies fail them and they're welcomed into heaven, others here will know a blessing from the life these saints have given. We are made to make a difference. We are made to laugh and dance. So we thank you for each person who receives a second chance. For they know that life is precious. They can see another dawn. They are blessed to be a blessing as joy of life goes on. Thank you all so very much for joining us tonight for our Donor Sabbath event, and God bless you all. Good night.